Well, hello there, my beautiful sweethearts. Welcome back to Granny's Hard Truth, where we serve up revenge stories colder than a frozen margarita and twice as satisfying. I'm Grandma Rose, and honey, do I have a story for you today that's going to make your blood boil and your heart race? Now, I thought my own revenge saga against my cheating ex husband was dramatic. But, sweethearts, sometimes life hands you a story so outrageous that even I have to sit back and say, oh, hell no. Today's story comes from one of my beautiful listeners. Let's call her Mather. And it involves a milestone birthday, a lying husband, and a family betrayal so shocking it would make a soap opera writer weep with envy. You're turning 50 years old, the big 50. This should be your moment to celebrate becoming a queen in your prime, right? Instead, your husband of 20 years tells you he can't be there because of a business trip. But honey, this wasn't just any ordinary cheating husband story. Oh no. This man was spending her 50th birthday weekend with her own stepsister. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It really encourages me to keep sharing these incredible stories with you all. This three-part series is about to show you how a woman turned the worst birthday of her life into the best revenge story I've heard in years. Ring that notification bell because we're diving deep into family betrayal, strategic planning, and the sweet taste of justice served at exactly the right temperature. I'm telling you, sweethearts, when Mather first reached out to me about her story, I had to read her message 3 times because I couldn't believe the audacity of these people. But by the time she was done getting her revenge, everyone in her family knew exactly who they were dealing with. And it wasn't the quiet, accommodating woman they thought they could walk all over. Today, we're starting with the birthday that changed everything. How one woman's 50th birthday became the day she stopped being a victim and started being a force of nature. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let me tell you how a milestone birthday became the first day of the rest of Mather's powerful life. So there was Mather, 3 weeks before her 50th birthday, planning what should have been one of the most important celebrations of her life. Now, sweethearts, 50 isn't just another birthday. It's the birthday where you officially become a woman who knows her worth and doesn't have time for anyone's nonsense. Mather had been married to her husband David for 20 years. 20 years. They'd met when she was 28, got married at 30, and built what she thought was a solid life together. David worked in sales for a pharmaceutical company, which meant he traveled frequently for business meetings and client presentations. Mather, meanwhile, had been working as a dental hygienist while also managing their household, their finances, and their social calendar. For weeks leading up to her birthday, Mather had been dropping hints about how special this milestone was to her. Honey, she'd say, I can't believe I'm going to be 50. We should do something really special to celebrate. She was thinking about dinner at their favorite restaurant, maybe a weekend getaway, or at least a nice party with their friends and family. David seemed distracted whenever she brought it up. Yeah, absolutely, he'd say without looking up from his phone. We'll definitely celebrate. Let me just check my work schedule. But every time she tried to pin down specific plans, he'd change the subject or say he needed to figure some things out first. 2 weeks before her birthday, Mather decided to take matters into her own hands. She started planning her own celebration. Nothing too elaborate, just a dinner party at their house with their closest friends and family. She sent out invitations, planned the menu, even ordered a custom cake from her favorite bakery. But here's where the story gets infuriating, sweethearts. The Monday before her birthday, David came home from work looking sheepish and avoiding eye contact. Mather was in the kitchen, excited to show him the final guest list and menu she'd planned. Mather, he said, we need to talk about your birthday. Perfect, she said, thinking he'd finally gotten his act together and planned something special. I was just going over the details for the dinner party. Your sister confirmed she can make it, and… That's the thing, David interrupted. I'm not going to be here for your birthday. Mather felt like someone had just poured ice water down her spine. What do you mean you're not going to be here? I have to travel for work. It's a big client meeting in Atlanta that got moved up last minute. I've been trying to reschedule it for weeks, but they're insisting it has to be this weekend. Now, sweethearts, let me pause here to tell you something important. After 25 years of dealing with my own lying husband, I can smell a cheating man's excuses from 3 states away. Last minute client meeting is right up there with working late at the office and boys' night out in the cheating husband handbook. But Mather, bless her heart, was still trusting her husband at this point. She was devastated, but she believed him. "Can't someone else handle the meeting?" she asked. "It's my 50th birthday, David. This is important to me." David got defensive, which should have been red flag number 1. "Mather, you know I don't have a choice when it comes to work. This client represents a huge commission for us. I thought you'd understand. But I've already sent out invitations. I've planned everything. What am I supposed to tell people? Just tell them I had a work emergency. Everyone will understand. We can celebrate when I get back." The conversation ended with Mather crying in their bedroom while David packed his suitcase, acting like missing his wife's milestone birthday was just an unfortunate but unavoidable business inconvenience. But here's what really broke Mather's heart. She'd been looking forward to this birthday, not just as a celebration, but as a milestone they'd share together. She'd been thinking about how far they'd come as a couple, how proud she was of the life they'd built, how excited she was about the next chapter of their lives. Instead, she was going to spend her 50th birthday weekend explaining to friends and family why her husband was too busy to celebrate with her. Tell me in the comments, sweethearts, what would you have done if your husband told you he was missing your 50th birthday for a work emergency? Would you have believed him, or would your suspicion radar have started beeping immediately? So there was Mather, watching her husband pack for his business trip, the night before her 50th birthday, trying to convince herself that this was just bad timing and not a deliberate betrayal. But sweethearts, when you've been married for 20 years, you know your husband's habits, and something about this trip felt different. First red flag. David was packing clothes. Mather had never seen him wear for business trips. Usually, he packed his standard business casual outfits, khakis, polo shirts, maybe a blazer. This time, he was packing his nicest jeans, the cologne she'd bought him for Christmas that he'd only worn twice, and, get this, the silk boxer shorts she'd given him for their anniversary that he'd said were too fancy for everyday wear. "Those are nice clothes for a business meeting," Mather commented, trying to keep her voice casual. "Oh, the client wants to go to some upscale places for dinner," David said without looking at her. "You know how these big accounts are. They expect to be wined and dined." Second red flag. David's phone kept buzzing with text messages that he was reading and deleting immediately. When Mather asked who was texting him so late, he said it was work stuff about the meeting tomorrow. But here's the thing. Mather had been married to this man for 20 years, and she'd never seen him this secretive about work messages. The morning of her birthday, David left early, earlier than he'd ever left for a business trip. He kissed her goodbye like he was rushing to catch a flight, but something felt off about the whole thing. Mather couldn't shake the feeling that he was excited to leave rather than reluctant to miss her birthday. "I'll call you tonight," he promised as he grabbed his suitcase. "We'll celebrate over the phone." Celebrate over the phone? For her 50th birthday? Sweethearts, if a man thinks he can celebrate your milestone birthday with a phone call while he's supposedly in another state for work, that's not a husband. That's a part-time boyfriend who doesn't respect you. After David left, Mather sat in her kitchen drinking coffee and staring at all the party preparations she'd made. The decorations were up, the food was ordered, the guest list was confirmed, everything except the most important person who should have been there. But here's where Mather's nursing background came in handy. As a healthcare professional, she was trained to notice details and trust her instincts when something didn't add up. And everything about David's behavior was setting off alarm bells. So Mather did what any smart woman would do. She started investigating. First, she called David's office to see if anyone there knew about his big client meeting in Atlanta. "Oh, hi, Mrs. Johnson," said David's assistant, Rebecca. "David didn't mention any meetings this weekend. His calendar shows he's off until Monday. Is everything okay?" Mather's heart started pounding. Rebecca, David told me he had to fly to Atlanta for an emergency client meeting. Are you sure there's nothing on his schedule? I handle all of David's travel arrangements, and I haven't booked any flights for him. Plus, our Atlanta clients don't usually meet on weekends. Mrs. Johnson, I think there might be some confusion. Confusion? Oh, honey, there was confusion, all right. David was confused if he thought he could lie to a woman who'd been keeping track of his stories for 20 years. Mather thanked Rebecca and hung up, her mind racing. If David wasn't in Atlanta for work, where was he? And more importantly, who was he with? That's when she remembered something that had been bothering her for weeks. Her stepsister Brenda had been acting strange lately, canceling family dinners, being evasive about her weekend plans. And worst of all, she declined Mather's birthday party invitation at the last minute, claiming she had other commitments. Now, sweethearts, Brenda was Mather's father's stepdaughter from his second marriage. They'd never been particularly close, but they'd always maintained a cordial relationship at family gatherings. Brenda was 45, divorced, and worked as a real estate agent with a flexible schedule that allowed her to travel frequently. Mather's detective instincts were kicking in. She pulled out her laptop and started doing some digital detective work. First, she checked David's credit card statements online, something she rarely did because she'd always trusted him with their finances. What she found made her stomach drop. Charges at expensive restaurants she'd never been to, hotel reservations in cities he'd claimed to visit for business, but that she now realized were probably romantic getaways. And most damning of all, charges at a jewelry store just 2 weeks ago for $800. Mather had not received any jewelry recently, but the smoking gun came when she checked their shared cell phone account. She could see David's text message logs, and over the past 3 months, 60% of his texts were going to one number, a number she recognized from family gatherings. It was Brenda's phone number. If your detective instincts are tingling right along with Mather's, smash that like button and let me know in the comments what you would have done next. Don't forget to subscribe, because next week we're diving into Mather's investigation and the shocking evidence she uncovered. Now, sweethearts, there was Mather on her 50th birthday, sitting in her kitchen with a laptop full of evidence that her husband was lying and her stepsister was involved. But she needed more proof before she could be absolutely certain of what was happening. Mather was a smart woman. 20 years as a dental hygienist had taught her to be methodical and thorough. So instead of confronting anyone based on suspicion, she decided to spend her birthday doing what any self-respecting woman should do when she suspects betrayal. She gathered evidence. First, she called the hotel that showed up on David's credit card statement from his business trip to Dallas the month before. "Hi," she said, using her sweetest voice. "I'm calling to confirm a reservation for my husband, David Johnson. He stayed with you last month and loved it so much that he wants to book the same room type for our anniversary." "Oh, yes, Mr. Johnson," the hotel clerk said enthusiastically. "He and his wife had such a lovely stay. They upgraded to our honeymoon suite and seemed to really enjoy our couple's massage package." His wife? Mather felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. "That's wonderful," she managed to say. "Can you remind me of the dates he stayed? I want to make sure I book the same time frame." When the clerk gave her the dates, Mather realized they perfectly matched a weekend when David had told her he was visiting clients in Dallas, alone. And when she'd asked him how the trip went, he'd complained about how boring business travel was and how much he'd missed her. Meanwhile, he'd been getting couples massages with her stepsister in a honeymoon suite. But Mather wasn't done investigating. She remembered that Brenda was always posting on social media about her real estate success and weekend adventures. So she pulled up Brenda's Instagram and Facebook accounts and started scrolling through recent posts. What she found was like a breadcrumb trail of betrayal. Photos of expensive dinners at restaurants that matched the charges on David's credit card. Pictures of girls' weekend getaways to cities that corresponded exactly with David's supposed business trips. And most infuriating of all, photos of flowers and gifts that Mather now realized David had been buying for Brenda instead of her. One post from 2 weeks ago showed Brenda wearing a beautiful gold bracelet with the caption, "Treating myself because I deserve it. Hash self love, new jewelry." Mather looked at the timestamp. It was posted the same day David had the $800 jewelry store charge on his credit card. But the smoking gun came when Mather found a photo from the previous weekend. Brenda had posted a picture of a beautiful hotel room with the caption, "Sometimes you need a weekend escape. Relaxing, recharging." But what Brenda didn't realize was that in the reflection of the hotel room mirror, you could clearly see a man's suitcase, the same expensive leather suitcase Mather had bought David for Christmas 3 years ago. Mather took screenshots of everything. Every social media post, every credit card charge, every phone record. She was building a case like she was preparing for court. Because, honey, that's exactly what she was doing. Then she did something that was either brilliant or crazy. She decided to drive to Brenda's house to see if David's car was there. If they were really having an affair and David was supposed to be in Atlanta for business, wouldn't it be interesting if his car was parked at Brenda's place? Mather drove the 20 minutes to Brenda's upscale neighborhood, her heart pounding the entire way. And there, parked in Brenda's driveway like he belonged there, was David's silver BMW. On her 50th birthday, while he was supposed to be in Atlanta closing business deals, her husband was at her stepsister's house. Mather sat in her car for a moment, letting the full weight of the betrayal sink in. This wasn't just an affair. This was her family. Brenda had sat at Mather's dinner table, had attended family holidays, had hugged Mather and wished her well while secretly sleeping with her husband. And David? David had been lying to her face for months, maybe longer. Every business trip, every late night at the office, every time he'd been distant or distracted, he'd been planning his next rendezvous with her own stepsister. But here's where Mather showed her strength, sweethearts. Instead of confronting them right then and there, instead of banging on the door and causing a scene, she drove home and started planning her response strategically. She realized that this betrayal wasn't just about her marriage, it was about her entire family dynamic. If she was going to expose this affair, she needed to do it in a way that would make both David and Brenda face consequences for what they'd done. On her 50th birthday, instead of celebrating with her husband, Mather spent the evening documenting evidence and planning the most strategic revenge of her life. Tell me in the comments, sweethearts, what would you have done when you saw your husband's car in your stepsister's driveway? Would you have confronted them immediately? Or would you have done what Mather did and planned your response strategically? Now here's where Mather's story gets really interesting, sweethearts. Remember, she'd already planned and paid for a 50th birthday party at her house. All her friends and family were expecting to celebrate with her that evening, including her father and stepmother, Brenda's mother. So Mather made a decision that was either brilliantly strategic or completely insane. She decided to go ahead with her birthday party exactly as planned, but with one major change. She was going to use it as the perfect opportunity to expose both David and Brenda to their entire family. First, she called her best friend Lisa, who was already coming to the party. "Lisa," she said, "I need to tell you something, and I need your help tonight." Mather explained everything she'd discovered, the lies, the affair, finding David's car at Brenda's house while he was supposed to be in Atlanta. Lisa was furious. "That lying piece of garbage," she said, "and your own stepsister. What kind of family does that?" "The kind that's about to learn some very hard lessons," Mather replied. "Here's what I need you to do." The party was scheduled to start at 7 p.m. At 6:30, Mather called David. "Hi, honey," she said sweetly. "How's Atlanta?" "Oh, it's good," David said, and Mather could hear voices in the background that definitely didn't sound like a business meeting. "The client meeting is going well. We're just finishing up dinner now." "That's wonderful," Mather said. "I miss you so much. I wish you could be here for my party tonight." "I miss you too, baby. I'll make it up to you when I get back, I promise." Lies, all lies. While he was telling her he missed her, he was probably looking right at Brenda. When the guests started arriving at 7, Mather was the perfect hostess. She welcomed everyone, served drinks and appetizers, and accepted birthday wishes with grace. Her father and stepmother were there, along with David's parents, her coworkers from the dental office, and about 20 close friends. About an hour into the party, Mather's father asked, "Where's David? I thought he'd be here for your big birthday." "Oh," Mather said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "David had to travel for business. He's in Atlanta closing a big deal with a very important client." That's when Lisa, following the plan they'd discussed, spoke up. "Really? That's interesting because I could have sworn I saw his car earlier today." "Where did you see it?" Mather asked innocently. "Well, I was driving through Brenda's neighborhood this afternoon, and I'm pretty sure I saw David's BMW in her driveway. But that can't be right if he's in Atlanta, can it?" The room went dead silent. Mather's stepmother looked confused. "Brenda said she was busy tonight. That's why she couldn't come to the party. She said she had other commitments." Mather said thoughtfully. "That is strange. Maybe Lisa was mistaken about the car." But then Mather pulled out her phone. "You know what? Let me just call David and see how his business meeting is going. Maybe he can say hello to everyone." She dialed David's number on speakerphone so everyone could hear. The phone rang and rang, but he didn't answer. "That's odd," Mather said. "He answered when I called an hour ago." Then she did something that was pure genius, sweethearts. She called Brenda's number, also on speakerphone. Brenda answered on the second ring. "Hello? Hi, Brenda?" Mather said cheerfully, "I just wanted to call and tell you how much we're missing you at my birthday party tonight." "Oh, hi, Mather," Brenda said, and everyone could hear that she sounded nervous and uncomfortable. "Happy birthday. I'm sorry I couldn't make it." "That's okay. What are you up to tonight?" "My friend Lisa thought she saw David's car at your house earlier, but I told her that was impossible since he's in Atlanta for work." The silence on the other end of the phone was deafening. Everyone at the party was staring at the phone, waiting for Brenda's response. I don't know what she saw," Brenda stammered. "Maybe it was a car that looked like David's?" "Maybe," Mather said. "Hey, since you're not busy, why don't you come over and join the party? Everyone's asking about you." "I can't. I'm not feeling well. I think I'm coming down with something." That's when Mather delivered the knockout punch. "Oh no, maybe David could bring you some medicine when he gets back from Atlanta tomorrow? I'll have him stop by your place on his way home from the airport." Another long silence. Then, in the background of Brenda's phone call, everyone at the party could clearly hear a man's voice saying, "Who's on the phone?" It was David's voice. Mather's stepmother gasped. Mather's father's face turned red with anger. David's parents looked like they wanted to disappear into the floor. "Brenda," Mather said calmly, "was that David I just heard in the background? Because that would be very strange since he's supposed to be in Atlanta closing business deals." The phone line went dead. Brenda had hung up. The party had turned into the most dramatic family confrontation anyone had ever witnessed, and Mather was just getting started. If you're on the edge of your seat wondering what happened next, please subscribe and ring that notification bell. Next week, we're diving into episode 2, where Mather's investigation gets even deeper and the family confrontation gets even more explosive. Now, sweethearts, you can imagine the chaos that erupted in Mather's living room after that phone call. Her stepmother was crying, her father was furious, David's parents were mortified, and Mather's friends were looking like they'd just witnessed the most dramatic episode of a soap opera ever filmed. But here's what made me so proud of Mather. She didn't break down. She didn't scream. She didn't throw things. She stood in the middle of her living room on her 50th birthday, surrounded by the evidence of her husband's betrayal and her stepsister's treachery, and she handled it like the queen she was born to be. "Well," she said calmly, "I think we all know where David really is tonight, and it appears that Brenda's other commitments were more personal than any of us realized." Mather's father was the first to speak. "I am so sorry, sweetheart. I had no idea Brenda was capable of something like this." Mather's stepmother was in tears. "How could she do this to you? To our family? You've always been nothing but kind to her." But the most satisfying reaction came from David's mother, who looked absolutely mortified. "Mather," she said, "I don't know what to say. This is unforgivable. David was raised better than this." Yes, he was, Mather replied. But apparently, 20 years of marriage wasn't enough to keep him from forgetting those lessons. The party guests started leaving shortly after, but not before each one hugged Mather and told her how much they admired her strength. Her friend Lisa stayed behind to help clean up and plan the next phase of Mather's response. "What are you going to do now?" Lisa asked. "I'm going to do what any smart woman does when she discovers her husband is a liar and her stepsister is a backstabber," Mather said. "I'm going to document everything, gather more evidence, and make sure both of them face appropriate consequences for what they've done." That night, while David thought he was safely hidden away with Brenda, Mather was at home planning the most strategic revenge campaign of her life. She had 20 years of marriage to protect, a reputation to defend, and a family betrayal to expose. But most importantly, she had finally realized something that would change her life forever. She deserved so much better than a man who would miss her 50th birthday to sleep with her stepsister. The woman who'd started the day planning to celebrate her milestone birthday with her husband ended the day planning to celebrate her independence from both him and anyone else who didn't appreciate her worth. Don't you dare miss episode 2, sweethearts. Next week, we're diving deep into Mather's investigation, the shocking evidence she uncovered about how long this affair had been going on, and the family confrontations that had everyone choosing sides. Make sure you're subscribed and that notification bell is ringing because this story is just getting started. And remember, beautiful listeners, your 50th birthday should be a celebration of your power, your wisdom, and your worth. If anyone in your life can't see that, maybe it's time to start planning your own strategic independence. Until next week, this is Grandma Rose reminding you that patience might be a virtue, but evidence is power.